Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking about episode 11 of season 5 of Star Wars The Clone Wars, called A Sunny Day in the Void. Now, I gotta say that once again I felt kind of let down by this episode, but to be perfectly fair, it wasn't as bad as last time around. Last time around, I just spent the whole time wanting the episode to be over. This time around, I only felt like that part of the time. But that said, now that it is over, the idea of being able to do something a little bit more enjoyable, like taking a nap, playing a video game, or going and reading an Eric Flint novel, sounds pretty darn good. But we have some business to attend to first, so let's get right into it. Now, first of all, I have to give the folks that made this show some real credit. The visuals in the comet swarm were really very, very beautiful, very, very nicely done. My knowledge of astronomy is not that great, but that seems like a somewhat unusual behavior for comets, according to my knowledge of such things. But it's not as if Star Wars has ever been very good in the hard aspects of science fiction. In fact, let's be perfectly honest. As great as Star Wars is, it is at the end of the day really science fantasy rather than science fiction. And there's nothing wrong with that. But anyway, it actually did remind me a little bit of some of the scenes from the film Titan AE, which is, in my book, actually a very, very underrated film. But in any case, some really nice visual work done there, beautiful colors, and some reasonably exciting action there. Now, when we actually get to the Void Planet, this is when, the kind of wanting to beat your head against the wall stuff kind of really kicks in. Oh yeah, before we get to that though, I did want to say that one other thing that I did like when they were still in space was seeing the droids go out there and try and repair the ship and take care of things. This is of course very reminiscent of things we've seen many times before, of course in Clone Wars, but also things that we saw the droids doing in the films, particularly the prequels. So again, some very nice continuity there. And speaking of continuity with the original Star Wars movies, when we get to the Void Planet, one of the first things R2 does is go wandering off into the desert on his own, which of course is one of the very first things that he does after he and C-3PO end up on Tatooine in Episode 4. Now, of course, we now know that Tatooine was in fact actually a planet that R2 was probably at least reasonably familiar with, but still. Here he doesn't obviously have that luxury. But again, this is very much in keeping with R2's character, as is him very much stepping forward, seizing the leadership position from Gascon and brushing aside Wax objections to all of this. This is perfectly in keeping with R2's character. And I really love that they can convey all this without R2 having the ability to say a single word. It really does say something about R2 as a character that we as fans can understand what's going on in his head just from the reactions other characters have to his actions. But there's a reason, of course, that R2 is a very much beloved character in the Star Wars universe. Now let me see here. Okay, so we get our obligatory bonding moment between Gascon and Whack that I'm sure we all saw coming, and then there's some blah 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 about programming versus training, and some mildly disturbing humor for a children's show in regards to suicide. Then again, we have seen at least one full-on suicide on this show. So, yeah, man, hard to believe that it was only about 20 years ago that you on American TV couldn't have characters fire actual bullets at each other. If you remember, like the 80s and even into the 90s, if anybody was shooting a gun at somebody, it had to shoot a laser or something like that. And no, seriously, I'm not kidding. They even had New York City cops shooting lasers at Spider-Man in the 90s Spider-Man cartoon. And of course, the old 80s G.I. Joe show was infamous for the, red and blue lasers that G.I. Joe and Cobra shot at each other and never seemed to hit each other. But, hey, times have changed, right? Now, the one thing that really does bother me about what's going on here, other than the fact that it's kind of boring and annoying, is that the repeated insistence that we can't stay with the ship. Well, folks, I've had first aid training from the Red Cross, and while I'm certainly not going to pass myself off as any kind of safety expert, one thing that I did learn is that in situations like that, in emergencies, you want to stay with the ship or the airplane or whatever it is, because it's a lot easier for somebody who's looking for you to find something big like a ship or a plane or whatever than it is to find something relatively small like a human. So the idea that the droids are just going on like, oh, we definitely should not stay with the ship is just completely stupid and ridiculous and flat out dangerous advice. In the ship at least, there's going to be shade. There's probably some stuff they could salvage to maybe build a beacon to kind of attract some attention or something. There has to be something in that ship that is somewhat useful. It's certainly staying there does increase Gascon's chances of survival much more than just going out and randomly wandering into the desert. Now, the droids, of course, don't have Gascon's problem of needing, food, water, and, not having to worry of dying of heat stroke. Well, they can probably still overheat, but, droids are built of sterner stuff than organic beings. So their logic here is at best extraordinarily faulty. At worst, it's a subtle attempt to kill Gascon. Now, not that Gascon isn't kind of a jerk, but if these droids are actually trying to nudge this guy to die, that's actually extraordinarily disturbing, if for many reasons. But yeah, I don't think we really need to go into that too awful much. Now, I did like that at the end that they grabbed onto the birds and followed them to the oasis. Okay, that makes perfect sense. Then again, that's something that just about anybody could have figured out. It doesn't take a huge amount of training to realize, hey, those animals probably know where water is. So I really don't like that was treated as some sort of brilliant flash of insight. I'm also a little bothered that they didn't really bother to confirm that there were actually people in that village. I mean, if that had been a ghost town, then Gascon was probably just as screwed as he was, before. He at this point would probably just have shelter. But again, this is not one of the stronger episodes of this season, that's for sure. But now it's time, after this episode, I believe, for the winter hiatus, and then we will come back and start moving towards wrapping up this season, where doubtlessly we will get to see Sith guys doing some pretty badass stuff, and that's definitely something to look forward to in my book. So, yeah, at the end of the day, this is very much, well, hopefully it's a whimper before a bang. Let's put it that way. And once again, folks, as always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. You can, of course, follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi. And until next time, take care and have a good one.